Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the story of Marie Kondo and the whole KonMari Method.
You've almost certainly heard of it, right? It was this tidying philosophy that just exploded across the globe. It kicked off this massive decluttering frenzy and made Marie Kondo a household name, basically overnight.
And it all boiled down to this one simple question. It became a total cultural catchphrase. It was the new way to decide what to keep and what to get rid of, and the promise was huge, a complete life reset.
But here's the thing. The real story of KonMari has this final chapter that you probably haven't heard. And it's that surprising twist, this pivot away from perfect tidiness to something much deeper that we're going to get into today. All right, let's do this. Okay, so the whole KonMari method really comes down to 6 basic rules. And let's be clear, this isn't about a quick weekend cleanup. No, it's framed as a once-in-a-lifetime event, which she calls a tidying festival. These rules are your roadmap for that total life reset. It all kicks off with a serious commitment. You have to be all in, and you need a crystal clear vision of how you actually want to live. It's all about setting the stage for a massive transformation, not just, tidying up a bit.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Rule number 4 is a total game changer. Tidy by category, not by location. Think about it. Most of us, we tackle one room at a time, right? But Kondo says that's exactly why we get stuck in this never-ending cycle of cleaning. Her way? You gather every single piece of clothing you own from all over the house and put it in one giant pile. You're forced to face the sheer volume of stuff you have, and that confrontation is what makes your decisions so much more powerful and, hopefully, permanent.
All right, so let's talk about that famous phrase, spark joy. We've all heard it, but what does it really mean? Well, turns out the original Japanese word has a much deeper, more physical meaning than what we get from that simple English translation. The word in Japanese is tokimeku, and Marie Kondo herself describes it as this little thrill, a physical sensation like, and this is a quote, as if the cells in your body are slowly rising. So it's not a mental checklist at all. It's supposed to be this gut reaction, this heart flutter you feel when you hold something you genuinely love.
And that gets into the spiritual side of all this, which is way more complex than you might think. A lot of people just label it Shinto, but if you actually look at the KonMari brand, it's a much more eclectic kind of global spiritual brand. You'll see them talking about burning Palo Santo, which is from South America, right alongside traditional Japanese practices like Ikebana. It's this really interesting blend of global wellness, New Age ideas, and Japanese traditions all mixed together.
And a lot is made of her time as a shrine maiden, but sources point out that's actually a pretty common part-time job for high school girls in Japan. So trying to pin her whole philosophy on some simplified version of Shintoism, it kind of misses the more complicated and honestly more interesting reality of how all these global spiritual ideas influence modern Japan, and of course, the KonMari brand itself.
So naturally, this whole philosophy couldn't be contained to just the home. It didn't stop at the sock drawer. Nope, it expanded right into the professional world. So let's take a look at how this whole idea was adapted for our work lives.
This is where things had to get a little adjusted. The whole spark joy concept had to be redefined for the workplace. I mean, let's be real. You can't just throw out your boss or that quarterly report just because it doesn't spark joy, right? So the idea of joy had to get a lot more practical.
And so they adapted the framework to include these 3 different types of joy at work. You've got direct joy, that's easy, stuff you actually like. But then there's functional joy. That spreadsheet might not make your heart sing, but it helps you get your job done. And then there's future joy. Think about that really tough project. It might be a grind right now, but it's building your skills for the future. It's a really smart, pragmatic way to expand the core idea.
Okay, so just as the KonMari empire was expanding into every corner of our lives, something shifted. Marie Kondo's own personal philosophy went through this really profound and very public evolution.
This was huge. In early 2023, the undisputed queen of clean herself made this totally surprising admission. She told the Washington Post that her own home was now messy. I mean, the guru of tidiness confessed to having a messy house.
So what happened? Well, her life changed pretty dramatically. After having her 3rd child, she explained that, up until that point, she really did her best to keep her own home immaculate. It was her job. But now she realized what was truly important to her was just enjoying that precious time with her kids.
And this big personal shift led her to focus on a whole new concept, which is now at the heart of her latest work.
It's called kurashi. It's a Japanese term that's about so much more than a tidy house. It roughly translates to your way of life, or the ideal way you want to spend your time.
So kurashi basically reframes the entire KonMari method. The ultimate goal isn't the perfectly folded t-shirt drawer anymore. It's about leading a joyful life and sparking joy in how you spend your time every single day. Tidying is still important, but now it's just a tool, a really powerful tool, to help you figure out what that ideal life looks like. It's not the destination itself. And that evolution leaves us with a really interesting final thought. What if the ultimate magic of tidying up isn't about creating the perfect minimalist home? What if it's actually about learning when to stop? Maybe the real lesson from Marie Kondo is about finding the perfect way to live your life, even if that means embracing a little bit of mess along the way.